All right, everyone, and we are live for the New York Mets postgame show. The Mets win game one in Toronto by a score of 3-2. We have you all covered for the postgame reaction of this game. It was an up and down game. Really, I thought we were going to be talking about a loss there for a hot second, but the Mets find a way to rally in the eighth inning. A little bit of a scare there in that ninth inning with that last ball hit off of Edwin Diaz. I know the booth was scared. I was scared. I'm not sure if you were scared, John, but we got a whole lot to talk about. John, how you doing today? And shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's
Yes,
spam those W's. Let's get
let's
it.
go. Yeah, thank you everybody for being in the chat already. Keep the comments coming. Already got a lot of W's in the chat as well. But man, what a live stream we had. Yeah, that last ball. The first thing I was looking for was Marte going back to the wall. And I'm like, oh, he's going back too far. This ball's going. But he stopped right there at the track, made the catch. So it was perfect.
Absolutely. And what a high note to start the series off, especially, and we'll be talking about it, with an Atlanta Braves loss today, 1-0 against the Cincinnati Reds. The Mets go up one game yet again on the Atlanta Braves in the games back, or I guess you should just say wild card standings. There's no games back for the Mets right now because they do hold that third wild card. So I want to shout out everybody in the chat. There's a lot of you all in here between my stream and between the Pure Adrenaline Sports stream. As always, please subscribe to both channels. We're going to be doing these collaborations, whether it's us two or Rob is on the screen here with us for the rest of the season. Please subscribe to Pure Adrenaline Sports and CP New York Sports. You can find the link somewhere. If you don't know about it, we'll drop the link at some point during the stream. But very imperative to hit the thumbs up as well and show us the support because that is exactly what helps us out in terms of growing these streams and growing our channel. So we definitely appreciate that. But let's actually get into action here as John will kind of prop up some comments along the way in the chat. Like I said, a multitude of comments. Keep them coming. We definitely want to have an interactive type of show with you all. But let's talk about the pitching here, John, in this game first and foremost. And let's talk about Mr. Tylor Megill. Tylor Megill coming into this game, myself, Rob, and I'm sure a lot of people in this Mets fan base did not know what to expect. In his first two outings since being called back up in place of the injured Paul Blackburn, who we didn't get positive news on today in terms of that lower back soreness that is going to hold him out of this Toronto Blue Jays series. And we'll keep you all sort of informed on the latest news about Paul Blackburn when we get some more updates. We did not know which version of Tylor Megill we were going to get whatsoever. He had a very strong start in his first game back up from AAA against the White Sox, struggled a little bit the last time out against the Red Sox, and we were kind of like coming off of that Cincinnati Reds loss yesterday. We were kind of like, hold on. What are we getting out of Tylor Megill today? A lot of people, including myself, would have told you all coming into this game 5 innings of competitive baseball, not scoreless, just competitive baseball of keeping the Mets in the game would be sufficient. But look what he does today. Absolutely beautiful work by Mr. Tylor Megill. 6 innings pitched, 1 hit allowed, 0 earned runs allowed, 9 strikeouts. He really had the put away pitches going, especially with that splitter. He was changing the eye level with the 4-seam fastball. He was pumping in 96 to 97 miles per hour, and he only walked 2 batters today. What did you see out of Tylor Megill in this start? And also, a lot of conversation surrounding the Mendoza decision to pull him because we know how that next inning ended with the likes of a combination of Danny Young and Jose Butto. So what did you not only see from Tylor Megill, but did you agree with the decision to pull Tylor Megill after only 88 pitches?
Was very surprised from Megill tonight. I'd never have any confidence in him when he's on the mound. Tonight got the first 2 out, but then loaded the bases. Gets out of it with that little comebacker, but then absolutely dominates from there. 16 straight, like you said. 9 strikeouts. What do you have? 2 walks, 1 hit. Unbelievable. And yeah, Mendoza took him out after 88 pitches. The chat, myself, Daniel Caps is who's always hanging out here in our either my channel, your channel. Absolutely, he was so furious in the chat when they took him out. I didn't agree with it either. I thought you at least let him start the inning. Then if he gives up a runner, then you go to the bullpen. So it did not work out. Young comes in, gets the first out, but then hits a batter, gives up a single. And then Buto comes in. He struggles as well. I don't know what's up with Buto. He's been struggling as of late. But then the Mets do shut it down and hold on from there. But man, I don't know. I don't know what's going into the mindset of taking the pitcher out only at 88 pitches when he's absolutely dominating a game. I can understand
So
not wanting him to get to maybe over 100, but let him come out and start the next inning at least.
yeah, and I know that Daniel Caps would definitely agree with you because I saw some of the tweets going down on his X account as well. For me, it just signals and sort of backs up the lack of confidence, especially in Tyler Megill later on in the ball game, right? Again, like what were we all expecting coming into the game? And mind you, Tyler Megill only got pulled after 67 pitches in that Boston Red Sox outing. So this is becoming a common theme of Mendoza and the New York Mets to sort of pull him early and be satisfied with the production that you got within those 80 to 85 pitches that he throws. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I will say though, I do agree with it. I will take the opposite stance because at any time with this bullpen, right? And we'll talk about the guy right next to Tyler Megill in this graphic and Ryan Stanek and what he did in that eighth inning to set up Edwin Diaz because he was absolutely electric. But for me, when I take a look at the season that Tyler Megill has had and just the career that he's had in general, especially when the Mets need to maximize themselves in order to win as many games as possible, I can't kill Carlos Mendoza for making that decision. Tyler Megill was absolutely rolling 100%, but we all know what happens to Tyler Megill, especially if he lets one runner on base, gets a little bit rattled, and everything starts unraveling from there. So for me, I think it's a lack of confidence, especially later on in the ball game. And 6 innings pitched at that point was already a miracle of scoreless baseball for Tyler Megill. So I understand the decision. Obviously, in this case, it kind of backfired on you. The Mets were lucky enough to win the game, especially with what Danny Young and Jose Butto decided to do in that ball game in that seventh inning, which is completely unacceptable with the walks, etc. I mean, Jose Butto again walking batters, getting down in the counts, letting the hitters get into hitter friendly counts 2-0, 3-0. We're talking about even Gary Cohen on the broadcast was like, he has not thrown a first pitch strike to his first three batters, which is pretty concerning. But at the end of the day, I understand the decision. I'm just so happy to see that progression from Tyler Megill. Again, 88 pitches, could have definitely went out there for that seventh inning. They decided to cut or pull the plug a little bit early and trusted in the bullpen that the Mets have. And if you all know me, I've been preaching to you all about how much I personally trust this bullpen, and that's exactly what happened today. And that's probably what the thought process was with Carlos Mendoza, if I had to guess. But again, the pitch distribution, I always wonder with the vast majority or the vast variety of pitches that Tyler Megill has, it's absolutely beautiful to go out there and see that kind of distribution. You had the four-seam fastball, 25 plus pitches of his 88, the sinker, which is very successful for Tyler Megill this season at 23, the cutter, which has been one of his worst pitches, only threw it for 11 times, but that splitter, right? That American ghost fork, whatever you want to call it, right? That he started to implement the tail end of last season and really decided to refine this offseason was working and was working for him well. He got Vladdy Guerrero Jr. off balance the handful of times in the at-bats that he saw Tyler Megill up at the plate. I was very impressed and very encouraged, especially because we don't know what's going to happen with Paul Blackburn. We don't know if this is going to be an extended sort of injury for him. If it doesn't get better, Carlos Mendoza is saying that he might go back to New York and get imaging, whether it's on the off day or whether the Mets go or when the Mets go travel to Philadelphia for the next series. So Tyler Megill actually might be right in this rotation for longer than we all had planned for with the Paul Blackburn injury. So I guess, are you confident in that? I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people would have rather seen Tyler Megill be implemented back into the bullpen. But what is your confidence level in Tyler Megill moving forward?
Honestly, I know he pitched great tonight. Still, even when he goes to the mound the next time, I'm gonna expect like tonight, the first inning had the bases loaded, has problems throwing strikes. I don't know. I don't trust them, but they have no other options right now. So I mean, you got to go with who you got, and I don't know what the breakdown was from his last game because I did not feel he had. So I wonder if he didn't throw that fork that he's been mixing in. I don't know how to get the pitch breakdowns like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have confidence in him. Him and Quintana. Anytime they're on the mound, I don't have confidence in them. But right now, no other option. So you gotta go with that until either Blackburn is healthy enough to start, or it looks like either way, even if he does come back this year, Senga, but he's only going to be available out of the bullpen anyway, probably in the postseason. But once you get to the postseason, you really might not need a guy like Megill to make a start.
Yeah, you definitely probably won't, especially with the top three guys that we have in this rotation. Obviously, everybody knows consistently what the top three guys have been producing in Severino, Manaya, and Peterson. It's really what you're going to get out of your 4 and your 5 starters, whether it's Megill, Blackburn, and also Quintana, like you said. So we'll continue to sort of monitor that progression. Obviously, Paul Blackburn is not going to make a start in this series. We'll talk about the next 2 games of this series as well in the starting pitching probables for the New York Mets. But let's talk about Ryan Stanek, right? Let's talk about Ryan Stanek. Absolutely filthy tonight. I mentioned this in a couple, I believe, 2 previous live streams in the past week and a half, that I really wanted to see how the Mets were going to deploy at full strength the bullpen and what personnel they're going to use in what situations. We haven't seen Ryan Stanek in a high leverage situation for the New York Mets maybe ever, but definitely within the last couple of weeks. We've been seeing him more in the lower leverage situations. I think the last time out we saw him was last Tuesday, according to Gary, when the Mets really didn't need Edwin Diaz for that last inning. I believe he closed the ball game out for the New York Mets in the 9th inning. Regardless of what it is, we haven't seen Ryan Stanek nearly enough in high leverage situations. And this is a guy that has been lights out in his career, especially for successful Houston Astros teams there in huge games. And he's out there, he's throwing a nasty splitter, he's throwing fastballs that other guys just simply can't catch up to. You talk about 99 miles per hour up at the top of the zone to get a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. swinging. He struck out the side, for crying out loud, in his only inning pitch today. No hits, 3 strikeouts, and 0 earned runs, obviously, because he struck out the side. But this is a guy that I really do think you can deploy in high leverage situations, especially maybe if Phil Maton kind of finds earth a little bit. I know he got off to an unreal start as a New York Met, but if he kind of levels out, I really want to see the Mets implement Stanek more in higher leverage situations, at least until Daniel Nunez gets healthy, whenever that may be. Now, obviously, I haven't really heard anything out of the Daniel Nunez camp. Not really encouraging news with him kind of getting thrown back out there to the IL after a very short return. But yeah, this is something that I really want to see Carlos Mendoza start to implement moving forward. Stanek definitely deserves the benefit of the doubt in terms of his history. I know he hasn't had a great season before with the Mariners organization before he came over to the Mets at the trade deadline, but he was electric today, John. I mean, there's no question about it.
And he did start out rough. He had a 3-0 count on the first batter, and he comes back and strikes out. I don't know if it was Varsho. I think there was a pinch hitter there. I didn't write it down, but comes back after falling down 3-0 and strikes out the side. So yeah, great stuff out of the bullpen from there. And yeah, I don't know why it doesn't seem like some guys like Mendoza goes a while without using a guy too often, but then we see other guys all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of, and I've like I said, I respected the decision out of Carlos Mendoza. I know a lot of people in this chat, a lot of people on Mets Twitter, especially if the Mets had ended up losing this game, would have absolutely obliterated Carlos Mendoza for that decision. I think in terms of the thought process, it was a sound decision, no matter if it ended up working out in a win or a loss. You got to trust your bullpen at that point. You got the names in that bullpen for a reason. I think it's a pretty good bullpen. It's definitely above average. And like I said, I've been on record saying that this is an elite bullpen. And for the most part, they have been holding down games as of recent, and they've kind of backed up that rhetoric from me. I know a lot of people still push back on the quote unquote elite term that I use for this bullpen, but they're above average. And if you're Carlos Mendoza, you should be able to expect them to go ahead and close out close ball games or get it to Edwin Diaz in the hands of your closer more often than not. And unfortunately, that's not how it ended up today in the seventh inning. But the Mets with the quick rally, and all is good. The Mets win 3-2. Guys, everybody in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here with us. This is John from Pure Adrenaline Sports and CP from CP's New York Sports, streaming to both YouTube channels. New collaboration for the post games. This is going to be happening way more often. We got everybody in the chat. We definitely appreciate the support. We'll continue to prop up comments as we get them. There's a lot of you in here. We apologize if we miss anybody. No hard feelings at all. We're going to try to do our best to keep this very interactive as possible. Please hit the thumbs up on both streams. Subscribe to both channels if you haven't done so already. And again, you all know where to find us. But if you don't, make sure you figure it out. We'll toss some links in the chat here in just a second. But let's talk about the offense here, John. We're just about 16 minutes into the stream, 17 minutes into the stream. We have the box score right here. A lot of people starting to become concerned with the up and downness of this offense. Obviously, they went ice cold last night against, or not last night, but yesterday against the Cincinnati Reds. They're coming off of a 9-game win streak, so it's very hard to sort of overreact to that. But for about 16 innings there before they scored that first run from JD Martinez, it was very, very lazy. It was very lackluster, and there was a lot of terrible approaches and bad at-bats that I was seeing in that stretch of innings, in those stretch of innings. So what have you been seeing for the most part, in your opinion, from this offense? Very curious because guys like Brandon Nimmo, again, taking the over today, has been looking at least more comfortable at the plate, but the results haven't been there. We were talking about that in the pregame. If you missed the pregame, go check it out between Rob and myself. Pete Alonso, again, I tweeted out something to the effect of, I truly don't know, and I don't know if it's out of the question to start to be concerned with just the eyeballs of Pete Alonso. It doesn't seem like he is reading these pitches and the spin out of the pitcher's hand, and any slider / sweeper on the outer part of the plate, maybe even 1 to 2 inches off, is going to be an automatic swing and miss because he does not have the ability, right, to decipher what's a ball and what's a strike, especially if it has any sort of spin on it on that outside corner. So what do you make of this offense? Again, they were able to rally late. That was helped out by a couple of walks, a couple of pass balls, a little bit of a well-placed ball by Francisco Alvarez there in that, I believe it was the 8th inning as well, the top of the 8th. So what do you make of this offense right now, and are you concerned with this offense?
Oh, absolutely concerned with this offense. Only 3 hits tonight, like you said. Even though they got those 2 runs in the 8th inning, it was only on 1 base hit, and it got lucky with a couple wild pitches to keep moving the runners up. But yeah, I don't understand. I don't notice it as much with the left-handed batters, but guys like Alvarez, Alonso, even Vientos at one point tonight, they cannot lay off that slider that's outside. Somebody's got to teach, maybe not teach isn't the right word, but somebody's got to tell these guys, listen, they're going to keep throwing that until you either learn to hit it the other way or lay off of it. And right now they're not laying off of it, but they're not trying to take it the other way either. So I think now I don't know if Alonso just wants to hit some home runs. That's why he's not trying to go the other way. But honestly, if I'm Alonso, I'm trying to get my average up here the last 3 weeks of the season. So I don't know. Yeah, but the lefties, I really don't notice it with the lefties because I don't know. Nimmo before the All-Star break, absolutely crushing it. Nimmo since the All-Star break, don't know what's going on with Brandon Nimmo there. Even Lindor over the last 4 or 5 games here. Now we did get on base tonight, but I believe he's like 1 for his last 12 or something. So I'm not sure what's going on with the offense. Now, personally, to me, I know they have 2 hitting coaches. I personally don't like that. I would now. It's kind of late in the year to worry about that, but in the offseason, I think Mendoza's got to figure out which guy to go with. And because I don't know if one hitting coach is telling the players one thing, if the other hitting coach is telling the players something else, stick with one guy and figure out these slumps. Because Alonso's been in a slump all year. I never felt like Alonso's gone on a tear like we've seen in past seasons.
No, I definitely agree with you. Obviously, this whole entire offseason, we'll be talking about, and me in particular, will be talking about the sort of coaching staff personnel. There's no question in my mind that there are competing philosophies here with both of these hitting coaches in terms of Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. For me, Eric Chavez seems to be deploying more of a high contact and minimizing power type of attitude. And Jeremy Barnes is like, okay, we'll take the strikeouts. But as long as we're hitting gap to gap and hitting the ball over the fence more often than not, then we'll be fine. And obviously, I'm just using these and putting these in my own terms. But when I take a look at and when I hear and read articles describing these two hitting coaches and their philosophies and what they actually say, that's kind of the vibe that I get. So I have no doubt in my mind that one of these guys, if not both, because I really do think it might be both of these guys, will be gone this offseason, and David Stearns will bring in his guy because he did not get the opportunity when he got into this organization to bring his guy into the hitting coach type of fold. So, again, at this point of the season, like you just said, too little, too late for that. They've had a whole entire season to try to mitigate that, but they've rolled with the two guys, the co-hitting coaches, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, John, we are sitting here on September 9th, 2024. We are in the middle of a wild card race against a division rival and two good teams in the Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres. These players are professionals, and they got here to this point in their careers because they annihilated the competition everywhere else that they've been. And so you cannot tell me at the end of the day, I understand that the philosophies and the underlying philosophies are what they are. But at the end of the day, it's up to these guys and these players to grab a baseball bat from the dugout, go out there and do what they do and do what they've been doing their whole entire lives. And for me to sit there and blame the hitting coach for that, for extended slumps, right, from what we're seeing from Pete Alonso and his ability to not lay off the pitch that has been his kryptonite this whole entire season, even going back to last year, that cannot be hit on the hitting coach. That cannot be placed, on the hitting coaches. That is a player issue. So it's kind of like a whirlwind of, the coaches and the players. But again, there's no time for excuses. It's September 9th, 2024, and all we can hope is that these players get back to the back of their baseball card, so to speak. I know that's a very cliche term. I know that's a term that nobody really wants to hear, but Brandon Nimmo that applies to, Pete Alonso that applies to, even Francisco Alvarez and what we looked at him doing last year for the most part in terms of the power category, not so much the average, right, in terms of the power category that applies to him as well. So that's kind of my take on it. And chat, please let us know what you think in terms of the hitting coaches. Are they to blame? Are they not to blame? I think that for the extended slumps this season, you definitely could have an argument for it. But as of right now, on the post game tonight, it's on the players. It has to be on the players. And we're going to need, this offense is going to need, because these ball games that you win late in the season, nobody's going to complain. And I'm not going to sit here and complain about how the Mets win these ball games. But let's just call a spade and just admit that these ball games haven't been the prettiest for the New York Mets in terms of really knocking the cover off the baseball. Again, the way they scored 2 of the 3 runs today via the wild pitch and just a little bit of luck on their side kind of was reminiscent of 2022. And I'd much prefer to see an offense that is a juggernaut and going out there and knocking the ball over the wall or knocking the ball gap to gap and a little bit more sound baseball in that. But again, beggars can't be choosers. The New York Mets are victorious tonight for their 79th win, and they do win by a score of 3-2. JD Martinez was really good to see him get involved, especially for the first run of the game on either side. It was an opposite field single. JD Martinez, even though he's had his fair share of struggles, I always talk about in the pre-games him starting to get back going and what he was doing to sort of kick off, right, the Mets offense in the beginning of the year. He was really that first guy to step up and kind of been like, hey guys, let me just lead by example and you guys follow my lead. But he's kind of cooled off. He's hitting around 250, give or take some batting average points, 16 home runs on the year. I think he's around 67, 68 RBIs, or maybe even 66, one of those numbers. It doesn't really matter. He's provided something that I always have said that he was going to provide, right? A supplemental piece to the core. He was never brought in here to be a mainstay, a main piece. The main pieces are Lindor. At the time, McNeil, obviously, he's not in the equation anymore, but Nimmo and Pete Alonso, respectively. And so we need those guys to get going. But again, it was nice to see Martinez get on the board here. 1-for-4 day, RBI, but he does bring in the first run of the ball game for the New York Mets tonight. So what else did you see from the offense today, John? Any more notes on this offense here?
No, the offense tonight was atrocious. I don't know what it is going up against, especially I've noticed that as of late with teams going with bullpen games against the Mets. The Mets struggle right out of the box. I mean, it'd be great. And a lot of the season, the Mets have struggled to score early, but it would finally be great to get maybe not even some runs, but put some pressure on the opposing team in the first couple innings. I mean, the Mets. I mean, during our live streams, everybody tells me to stay calm and relax until the third time through the lineup. I mean, we can't. Once we get to the playoffs, the Mets aren't going to be able to rely on the third time through the lineup to win ball games. They got to start figuring this out and getting to these pitchers earlier on. So, I mean, as of late, yesterday and today, offense has been atrocious. Now on Saturday, they had one big inning, but besides that, only a couple base hits sprinkled in. So I'm not sure what's going on, but like you said, as long as they're getting the W, I could take a struggling offense as long as you're getting the W at the end of the day.
Right, I agree with you 100%. And how about newest Met, Eddie Alvarez, getting in on the action today? Gets brought in as a pinch runner. Obviously, he replaced Pablo Reyes on the active roster today. That was a move that kind of came out of the blue in my eyes a couple of hours before first pitch. We talked about it on the pregame. He did score on the wild pitch today. It was a pretty good break, right, at third base. And he's known for his speed. He's known for his defense. He's not so much known for his bat, which has been pretty mediocre ever since he's been in the league and gotten into the league. But his speed definitely is a plus. And just like Pablo Reyes, when he got into the game in that Chicago White Sox series, scoring all the way from first, we have newest Met and backup middle infielder Eddie Alvarez getting on the action, and he scores on the wild pitch. It was really nice to see him get a nice break on that ball. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not sustainable to sort of wait through the second time and the third time in the lineup to start scoring runs, right? You need to provide, and we've talked about this all season long. If you've been a part of our pregame shows with Rob and myself, we talk about getting some breathing room for these pitchers early. And I'd like to see the Mets get back into that sort of habit. And even Gary, right? When Gary's calling this stuff out in the broadcast, they you know that other people are starting to see this and they're starting to notice these trends as well. And I'm not sure if it was either yesterday or today, he said the same exact thing in terms of the Mets scoring runs, but them doing so later in the later parts of the ball game. That is something that I'm going to keep an eye out on as well, because I want to see more of those first inning grand slams. Okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Right.
Maybe not so much a grand slam that Winker hit the other day, but just putting runs up on the board in the first and second innings, maybe the first time through the lineup, and that will get the confidence going for us fans, the pitchers. They start to kind of settle into their game, and they become a little bit more relaxed out there, as anyone would with a lead when they're pitching with a lead, instead of just trying to continue to post zeros each inning. So again, like I said, that's kind of my analysis. But one thing that I did forget to mention here in this slide with Ryan Stanek is that this is something that I mentioned in the post game yesterday in that brutal 3-1 loss. It was kind of a disappointing loss. Really was hoping for a sweep there in 10 straight. Was that Ryan Stanek, if you noticed his outing today, when he got up on the opposing hitters, guess what he did not do that Phil Maton did last night? If he noticed that the hitter was behind on his fastball because he throws a pretty damn good fastball, he stuck to the fastball
Mm-hmm.
and he blew them away with it. And that's something that I believe that Phil Maton, if you listened in the post game, for those of you all in the chat or watching the replay, if Phil Maton stuck with his fastball in the at bat yesterday, instead of throwing the hanging curveball, then we might be talking about a different result last night or yesterday in that matinee game. So that's something that I really wanted to sort of throw out here because, as I said, I want the Mets to learn from these mistakes, especially the late game relievers. When you see a guy struggling with the fastball, be confident in the fastball, which is what we've seen from Edwin Diaz ever since that meltdown and the grand slam given up in Arizona to Corbin Carroll. Trust your fastball, right? There's a time and a situation always for a splitter, for a curveball, for a slider, but not when you've got the guy right where you want him and you've seen him struggle to keep up with your fastball already in that bat. So I just want to throw that out there and sort of instill that yet again, because again, that was the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way yesterday, minus the non-existent bats, was that hanger by Phil Maton.
Yeah, and another thing with the bullpen, I've noticed a lot of the guys, when they do come in and they get ahead of the batters, they'll dance around the strike zone, trying to get them to chase. Well, you attacked them the first two pitches. Just keep attacking them. I don't understand why you try to get pretty and waste pitches.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're just going to get into the chat here before we continue on with this post game. We're just past 30 minutes on the post game. Hopefully, you all are enjoying the post game. If you all are enjoying the post game, spam the W's in the chat. Keep spamming them. We want to see as many W's as possible for the New York Mets to continue to give us W's to talk about. Patrick saying, agreed. I felt Maton was being too cute with the curveball. He hung one. Guess what Blue Jays did tonight? Nothing but breaking balls. Yes, absolutely, Patrick. 100%. Thank you for being here. We got Cope with the W. We got Patrick with the W. NY Committee with the W. Definitely appreciate you all being here. Thank you for the support. Ray saying that he agrees with me in terms of instilling that fastball. Please, that's all I'm asking from these pitchers, whether it's the starting pitchers or the relievers, but the relievers especially, because the opposing hitters aren't seeing you for a second or third time, right? You have the luxury with being confident with the pitch that you desire and that you've been having success with because they haven't seen you. There's no familiarity there. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of killed me yesterday about that game. But again, we have a win today. We didn't get the win yesterday, and we move on. So Frank's saying he also agrees as well. Carlos is saying he agrees with that point. Just want to get into some of the comments here as well, because like I said, we've been doing this full stream here. We want to keep it interactive with you all because we appreciate you all being here. Ricardo's mentioning a possibility. I know that you're definitely in this camp, John, of dropping Nimmo down the lineup. Do you have any thoughts about that? I know you've been flirting with the idea of putting him sixth potentially, I heard.
Yeah, you got to drop him. I mean, you can't. He's been in a slump since the All-Star break. We can't keep putting him at that 2 or 3 spot. They moved him to 3 tonight, but I mean, his average has dropped back down to 220 something. I mean, and with an 0 for 4 again tonight. So until he figures it out, take the pressure off of him from batting up in the top of the lineup, and just let him hit at the bottom of the lineup. Let him get it going, and then move him back up. I don't understand why we can't. I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, they moved Lindor. What's funny is Lindor was struggling, and they moved him to the leadoff spot, and that's when he takes off. So he really didn't get dropped in the lineup. But, I mean, anybody else, drop him. I mean, I'm sorry, Alonso. Right now, Alonso shouldn't be hitting 4th either. I mean, I don't know who you put in there, honestly. I guess if Winker's playing, you put Winker there. But, yeah, I mean, JD Martinez. JD, like you guys said in the pregame, I forget if it was you or Rob, JD always comes up with that one base hit. Even if he is struggling at the plate. Even tonight, he had the big RBI single, like you pointed out earlier. But anybody else? And I know Marte. We couldn't wait for Marte to come back. Defensively, he's been fine, but when is offensive Marte coming back? We haven't seen it. I don't know what's going on with these guys.
Yeah, and again, this is It's nice to see, even despite what John just said, and these guys struggling for an extended period of time. And we'll switch back to the offensive sort of slide here because we are talking about the offense. It's nice to see that the Mets have still been finding ways to win ball games, whether it be a little bit of luck on their side from just some bad fundamentals of the opposing team, or just getting those late runs by any means necessary. There really is something to be said for there being another level of this Mets team that's still yet to be unlocked, and that especially in this brutal stretch of games against the Braves, against the Phillies, against the Brewers, this is going to need to change. This might fly against the Reds, and this might fly against the Toronto Blue Jays for the most part, but when you play the higher threshold of opponents, especially needing wins down the stretch here for the New York Mets more often than not, something's going to have to give. And these at bats, right? We're not here to sugarcoat it for you all. We're here to be positive because it's a win, and we're talking about a win. It's always great to see a win, but we are here to also call out what the Mets should be doing and need to be doing to get wins with the tougher schedule coming up and maintaining pace with the three teams that they're competing with for that wild card spot. So definitely agree with you with your analysis there. Again, though, I don't really know exactly if of course they changed the lineup today. They put Mark Vientos back in the 2-hole and they put Nimmo in the 3-hole. I was kind of surprised, and we talked about in the pregame as well, like you were alluding to, the fact that JD Martinez was hitting fifth for a lot of the season behind Pete Alonso, and Iglesias got that role today. And it was kind of interesting to see because even though Martinez has been struggling, he does come up with a huge hit, especially maybe with a guy on, right? Even if he goes 1 for 4 or 1 for 5, whatever may have you, he does usually get a pretty big hit. So it's kind of curious to me that the Mets would prefer him to be a little bit down towards the bottom of the order to even things out, or maybe they're just not, I guess, convinced or confident in his abilities right now and his bat speed. But I think it's probably the first reason as opposed to the latter, because at this point, you look at the offers that Alvarez is posting, you look at the offers that Alonso and Nimmo are posting. I mean, even one hit, that's a huge hit and the clutch hit for Martinez is even better than what those guys are posting right now. So I'm pretty sure that keeping him in that 6th spot is just more so acting as a bridge to the bottom of the lineup, and your Marte, Bader, and Alvarez, who really haven't been good recently, more so than them not being confident with Martinez overall. So that's kind of what I think. But Junior is basically saying here, the hitting philosophy makes no sense. Taking pitches against bums, see the ball, and kill the ball, Junior. Oh my God, if I could hang this comment up and frame it on my wall, I definitely would. I've been preaching this time and time again. I don't know why Mets fans or MLB fans in general get so worked up about these players hitting early in counts. Yes, there's a time and a place to work the counts and get a pitcher out of the game. There's obviously a time and place for that. I will never dispute that. But these are major leaguers. These are major leaguers on the other side of the ball on the mound that have 5 to 6 different pitches to throw at you. So if you have a fastball in your wheelhouse, and Nimmo did this a few times today, which pissed me off. If you have a fastball in your wheelhouse on the first pitch, I don't care if you pop it out. If you're swinging at it because you made the judgment that that is your pitch, then I'm all for it. I want to see and prioritize good hitting processes over bad ones. Like I said, if you get down 0-2, 1-2 in this league, you're at the mercy of the pitcher, and you're going to be looking like Pete Alonso more often than not. Because they will throw pitches that look like strikes and will break 2 inches off the plate, and they will miss your bat completely. So I agree with you, Junior. This is a great comment, and I'm glad that you said this, because I've been saying this all season long. See ball, see a strike, of course. Don't expand the zone, but see ball, hit ball early in the count. Agree with you. Oliver saying Lindor is not pressing. From what Oliver sees, he was on fire, so he couldn't keep up that pace forever. I do agree with that.
Yep.
I think the booth even said that as well. Jay said, I'm not a Pete hater, but he's been really subpar this year. Is it a bad year or just a player slowing down? He sure hasn't earned a big or long contract that he's going to want. What do you think? Is he just slowing down? A lot of people after last year had their concerns of him turning into like a Kyle Schwarber type or something like that, and maybe his bat just slowing down. And I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. We won't know until next year if this trend continues, whatever team he's on, whether it's the Mets or somebody else. But what do you think here?
I don't know what's going on with Alonso. Once again, my favorite Met, my current favorite Met. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Alonso. I don't think he's on as of right now. I don't think he's on the team next year. I don't think the Mets are going to offer him what he wants. I think one team might. The only way he stays with the Mets, I believe you brought this up, if he takes a 1 year prove it deal. So stuff like
Qualifying
that.
offer. Qualifying offer.
Oh, qualifying offer. So thank you. I don't know what that would be. Maybe in the 20 something $20 million range. So I honestly don't see him taking that. Which if he leaves, if they give him a qualifying offer, do they get a draft pick? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so if they give him the QO, which is, I believe, around $23 million coming up for this year, somewhere around there, give or take a couple millions, definitely in the 20s. He will play under that 1 year contract at that value. It would act as another prove it year deal, essentially. But he does have the opportunity, if another team presents him a contract, whether it's a short term or long term deal, he does have the opportunity to walk away. But at that point, the Mets would be awarded a compensation pick.
So I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm sure a team like the Yankees would like to look at him. I'm sure a team like the Cubs would like to look at him. So we'll see if I don't know what teams are going to offer. I don't think he's now. I heard what was rumored was he wanted 30 plus million. I don't think he's worth that right now. But if we were getting a typical Alonso year where he's batting like 260 plus and hitting home runs at a better pace than he is, maybe. But I don't know. Alonso's going to have to go on a 3-week tear here to absolutely be worth the kind of money I think him and Boris are looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and we'll definitely have those discussions about Pete Alonso. We have a season to play, and he's going to be a Met for the time being, and the Mets are definitely going to need his services. They're going to need him to be the Pete Alonso that he has been, right, in terms of the power numbers. I've said this time and time again. If nothing else, if he's not going to hit for the average, right? If he's not going to be a gap to gap hitter, which I really think it would be a disservice for him in terms of his money that he wants not to be that. But if nothing else, I just need him to put the ball over the wall. I just need him to put the ball over the wall at a decent rate, because he hasn't even been doing that for stretches of this season, as Rob has always pointed out. Recently, it seems like he's been getting hold of more, but there's been stretches this season where he's gone like 30, 40 at bats without a home run. Maybe I'm exaggerating there a little bit, but you know what I'm trying to say. If nothing else, I need Pete Alonso to do the one thing that we should all be counting on Pete Alonso to do, and this team should be counting on Pete Alonso to do, is put the ball over the wall. And then the rest of the guys will just have to step up and do their thing in terms of the actual getting on base for the rest of the guys right in the middle of that order. So that's kind of my take on that. But again, I mean, there's nothing we can really do at this point in terms of the contract negotiations.
Ricardo saying 4 years, 120, take it or leave it. I don't know if I'm offering Pete that kind of money based off of this season.
Yeah, a lot of people get bogged down by the AAV, and we'll talk about that this offseason as well. I know it's $30 million a year, which would put him at the highest AAV of a first baseman in the league. But obviously, you're locking him in for 4 years and not 7 or 8, which presumably he wanted before. So I'm not sure any team is going to give him 7 to 8 years anymore in the league. Even if it's the San Francisco Giants, the New York Yankees, or whoever else might be interested, the Cubs, there's going to be a lot of teams that are still going to be interested in him. I have no doubt, but he's not getting anywhere close. I don't even think he's going to get an offer for more than 5 years, to be honest with you. So if you still believe in Pete Alonso, if you're an Alonso fan, if you believe in him, maybe you give him that AAV for the shorter amount of years, but that's really the only thing to do is offer that high AAV because for him to take the lower years. But that's really it. Anywho, Mets with runners in scoring position, we're 1 for 6. Obviously, a late game comeback. Always love to see a Mets win, but I think the general synopsis of this postgame is that the Mets need to be more enthusiastic, I would say. They need to be more, I I don't even know. I can throw out any sort of word right now. I'm kind of losing my thought process in terms of all the words that I can throw out there for what this team needs to be, and that they haven't been. But you get the gist here of what we're saying. Offense needs to be better, plain and simple. That's it. So, again, appreciate you all being here in the chat. About 45 minutes onto the stream, we got another slide to talk about, which is the next couple of games here for the New York Mets. News around the league. Obviously, I believe the Padres and Arizona had the off days, if I'm not mistaken. And Atlanta did lose their game to the Cincinnati Reds. I believe that was a makeup game in Atlanta tonight by a score of 1-0. The Braves have been kind of up and down as well. They've been struggling with the lineups that they've been putting together. If you just look at the names of that lineup, day in and day out recently, they are struggling with the injuries and whatever else they got going on. I'm not saying I pay attention to Braves baseball. I'll pay attention to their game here and there in hopes that they're losing, but that's about it. Good to see the Mets gain that game back that they lost yesterday in the wild card column. And you just got to go out there. And again, I think the synopsis of these players in these interviews, especially Luis Severino, and what he said recently, is that the fans definitely are looking at the outside. And I'm sure these players do at any given point. They'll go home, especially if the Mets win. I'm sure they pull up their phone and they're like, did the Braves win today? Did we game that game? I'm not denying that. But when it comes to them stepping in that dugout, in that stadium, they got to focus at the task at hand. And the bottom line is the task at hand is the Toronto Blue Jays for the next 2 days. You got David Peterson tomorrow. It's a 7:07 p.m. start, and you got Sean Manaea in Game 3. Again, no Paul Blackburn. If you were somehow out today all day and didn't catch the game and you're catching the replay or you're just here with us right now, we definitely appreciate it. Paul Blackburn did have a setback. He did not get activated from the IL, still on the IL, and they will monitor his lower back sort of discomfort, quote unquote, before he potentially gets imaging done if he doesn't feel better within the next couple of days. But other than that, 2 pitchers that the Mets have been able to entrust in for the most part in this series, John. Expectations for David Peterson and expectations for the rest of this series for you.
Yeah.
And guess what? Former Met Chris Bassitt does take the mound today. He was supposed to go today or tomorrow. He was supposed to go today. He's going tomorrow.
Going tomorrow. Yeah. Did they say why they switched them?
I don't think that was ever said. I don't think that was ever said.
So yeah, absolutely. The 2 of the 3 Mets that I absolutely have complete faith in when they take the mound. I mean, Peterson has absolutely turned it around. Coming into this year, I was a little worried about relying on Peterson, but man, he's proven me wrong, and I'll take that every time. But Manaea has been absolutely lights out as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Bassitt has not been the same. I loved Bassitt when he was on the Mets, but he's not been the same pitcher since he's left. So I expect, I mean, the Mets have the advantage on the mound the next 2 days. It's just going to depend on the offense now.
Again, it's going to depend on the offense. And we said it yesterday because I was under the assumption that the New York Mets were going to be going up against Chris Bassitt in tonight's game. And I was like, I know the Mets have the record for the longest game in pitch clock era so far in its short tenure as an MLB rule. But anytime Chris Bassitt is on the mound, it has the potential to have that kind of game where it's slow, a lot of shakeoffs, using every second of that pitch clock. A lot of step offs, a lot of throwovers, and that's just the way that Chris Bassitt decides to utilize his game and decides to go about his game. And you're right, he definitely is struggling in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform, especially this season. He's got like a 7 or 8 pitch arsenal. He throws a handful of those pitches well. His numbers in general haven't been great this season, and David Peterson has been fantastic. We all know what his ERA is. He's 9-1 on the season. And he's really got to establish and keep establishing that high fastball, because that's something that I've noticed from all these Mets starting pitchers is that they will go up with the fastball in the four seam and they will they will get swings and misses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they will set up their off speed in such a beautiful manner, whatever that may be. Of course, it's a changeup for Jose Quintana. It's the sweeper for Sean Manaea. It's the sweeper for Luis Severino. You can probably say maybe it's the curveball for David Peterson. Whatever their preference in the secondary pitch is, they set that up by utilizing that fastball, and that's a beautiful way to go about it. And I really hope they continue to do that. Again, full confidence in the Mets pitchers moving forward, but they need to keep up that pace of play. And the Mets, right? Because there's going to be times where these guys fall back down to earth and they show that they're human. And David Peterson, Sean Manaea, and Luis Severino. And that's when it becomes imperative for your offense to back you up and score you some runs to keep them in the ball game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the common consensus. The pitching's holding their weight right now. Even the bullpen, with maybe some minor slip-ups in the last couple of days, has been holding their weight. They've been holding their weight. The offense needs to get it going a little bit. Let's get some high energy. Let's get some, I don't know if you need extra batting. I don't know what you need to do. I don't know what you need to do. Whatever your routine is as a New York Mets hitter in this lineup, right? If you're not named Mark Vientos and Jose Iglesias in the moment, and maybe even Francisco Lindor, although he's cooled off just a tad bit. But if you're anybody else in that lineup, you need to find something that works for you and stick to it, because this offense needs to get going, especially before you see Philadelphia in this next series on Friday.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. I mean, coming down. I mean, the Mets are getting to the point now at the end of the schedule where they're going to have to go up against the teams they're going to have to face in the playoffs anyway. So, time to get that offense rolling, and hopefully the pitchers continue to do what they do. I don't know what it is now. I know Peterson at one point was getting over 5 runs a game run support. I don't know if that's dipped at all or not, but yeah, I mean, got the pitching matchups we want over the next 2 days before the off day. So hopefully this offense can wake up tomorrow. But the Mets seem to struggle against pitchers that throw that many pitches. I've noticed that over the last few times where they faced a starting pitcher that's got like 4, 5, or 6 different pitches that they could throw. The Mets seem lost at the plate. So we'll see if maybe something wakes these guys up tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I guess the last point here before we close out this post game and give our final thoughts here is that obviously I posted a short about Eddie Alvarez and the numbers that he had posted in AAA in terms of the offense. We know that he got into the game today and scored, but everybody needs to keep in mind that Eddie Alvarez is not playoff eligible in terms of the postseason roster for the New York Mets. The deadline to be postseason eligible for the New York Mets was to be in this organization as of August 31st at 11:59 p.m. He was not, because he just got acquired in a trade with Boston, whether it was yesterday or the day before, I forgot. But that leaves the question, because obviously Pablo Reyes was DFA'd. What's going to happen when the playoffs roll around, and who's going to be your backup middle infielder? We talked about it in the pregame. I just wanted to refresh you all's memory because you can't go into a playoff series with Francisco Lindor and Jose Iglesias being your only the only players on the roster that can play middle infield, the second base and shortstop. You can't have that happen. So something's going to have to give before then. Not really sure what's going to happen. I mean, again, I always throw out the name Luis Angel Acuna. I'm not trying to force it upon you all at this point. It can't be Ritter, because Ritter's not going to be playoff eligible either. Postseason eligible. I just forgot about that because he's not on the 40-man roster. The only other guy, right, that would be is Luis Angel Acuna. So, anyways, that's just my final thoughts. And other than that, again, I'll let you give your final thoughts, John, before we close things out.
Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, the Mets, like you said, as long as we come away with the W, guys, I know a lot of guys that are here watching that are hanging out in my live streams. I know I get frustrated with this offense. I always want the Mets to win, though. I know they're not going to go undefeated the rest of the way here, but got to get the offense going because once you get to the playoffs, you're going to be going up against better pitching anyway. But yeah, check out the Pure Adrenaline Sports page. Live play-by-play for almost every Mets game. The only game right now that I will not be able to cover the rest of the season is the game Wednesday, the afternoon game, but should be live for every other Met game the rest of the way. So if you haven't checked us out yet, come on over to the Pure Adrenaline Sports channel. Check us out. A lot of people hanging, depending on the game and depending on what day of the week it is. We usually get anywhere from 100 to one night we had almost 500 people watching. So come on over, join in with other Met fans, chatting it up, and just enjoying the baseball game. But yeah, CP, man, thanks for teaming up. You and Rob are great guys as well. So sorry I missed yesterday's post game with the NFL going on. We had a lot of stuff going on here with streams and stuff. So, but yeah, man, keep up the great work on your channel as well. I know it was a few days ago, but congrats on 900. And that number does not seem to. The subscriber number is always important because you always want to see it go up, but it doesn't become as important once you get to that 1K.
Yeah, and that's what I need to get to, 100% on the channel. So if you all can help me out, if you're listening to this, and if you're not subscribed yet, and you like the analysis that we've been going over on the pre-games and the post-games, and every other video that I drop in the meantime, whether it's an off-day pod or just any pre-recorded podcast that I drop for the New York Mets, please definitely subscribe. I definitely appreciate that. Tell your friends, tell your family. Definitely trying to get to that 1,000. Again, final thoughts. It was a great win today. It was a gutsy win. I liked what I saw, but then again, there's some other things that I didn't like, and that's okay as a Mets fan to sort of be objective in the way we talk about this team and realize that there's always room for improvement, especially in such a crucial stretch, but also just appreciate where the Mets are at right now as they improve to 79 and is it 65 on the season, 14 games over 500. Great to see. Obviously, we talked about needing to be on point for the rest of the season. 19 games before first pitch today. We said maybe 12-7 was the marker to really solidify yourself in the playoffs. It might take even more than that. Who knows, depending on what the other teams do. But 12-7 for sure is that minimum barometer. And they did a great job in terms of starting a potential new win streak tonight and sort of working their way to that 12-7. So like I said, definitely hit that thumbs up on the Pure Adrenaline Sports Network on YouTube, on the CP New York Sports channel as well. That's my channel over on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe button, all that good stuff. Again, we'll have post-game coverage for you all. I am TBD tomorrow. I will be doing the pregame with Rob, TBD on the postgame. Again, that is subject to change, but definitely I think you said you're out on Wednesday. I definitely will be available for a pregame and the postgame on Wednesday as well. So I got you all covered after that Game 3 versus Toronto. Again, this is the New York Mets postgame show. John from Pure Adrenaline Sports and CP from the CP New York Sports YouTube channel coming at you live. Definitely appreciate you all being here with us. Salute to everybody in the chat. Thank you all so much. Hopefully you enjoyed the content, and we will be right back with you all tomorrow cheering on our New York Mets, looking to get to that 80-win mark. Peace out, y'all.